Well, David Schmidt, I am so excited to have you on this segment of Regenerative Medicine Summit. This is going to be amazing information that we're going to be chatting about.
Oh, thank you. It's my pleasure. Thank you for having me. It's really a pleasure to be with you today and to have this time with you.
Well, for people out there not recognizing everything that you're doing, you're the inventor of the LifeWave Patches and also CEO of that company. And your background in invention and entrepreneurial endeavors, I mean, it's been pretty incredible. You've been specializing in things like energy production technologies for both military and commercial. You developed a new method for producing hydrogen, oxygen, design and also prototype for a multi-fueled bladeless turbine power generating system. And so you've done a lot in this, honorary doctorate, and also you've been recognized as a leader in the invention, Hall of Fame of inventors. But now you really come to a point where you try to figure out how to bring this type of energy, that technology, so it could benefit the human being, right?
Yeah, absolutely. When I was growing up, I grew up as a Christian, and I used to read some pretty amazing stories in the Bible, and you would see Jesus healing people, feeding people, and I thought, oh, this would really be a great thing to do with my life. And I didn't want to be a farmer. So I thought, I think I like this bit about healing others, and, what would that path of life look like? So that was always the intention. And I've been an inventor at heart, so I love to explore other areas. But the past maybe 12, 15 years has been dedicated to stem cell research and looking at how to activate the endogenous stem cells that are already in the human body. So there's a very, very exciting future ahead for all of us when we think, 10, 20 years from now, stem cell injections will be very commonplace. So they'll save lives. People will go to hospitals, maybe they were in an auto accident, they'll get a stem cell injection, and that will start the healing process. And I have been doing work with the National University of Ireland in Galway, and we received a research grant from Scientific Foundation Ireland. And basically, my proposal was to see if we could activate the stem cells that were already in the body. So instead of giving an injection, maybe we could make the stem cells young and active again and improve the healing. So this would be natural, safe, and hopefully effective. And that project went extremely well.
Yeah, because we all have stem cells, and that's why you go to these stem cell clinics and they do it from the individual's fat, or they do it from their bone marrow. So the stem cells are already there. So to be able to kind of maximize the effect of what we already have in a very usable form, so people don't have to go to clinics. I mean, yes, that's beneficial as well, but that's time commitment, that's money commitment, and to be able then to have something that people can just use at home. I mean, that is what your technology, I know, has been driving.
Yeah, and it's a great point, because there are a number of complementary things that people can do along with our technology, as well as to support their overall health and stem cell function. So we know that diet plays a role. Keeping antioxidants elevated plays a role. Using technology like hyperbaric oxygen is going to increase the total number of circulating stem cells. So where our technology fits into this is that we can use light to initiate specific biochemical pathways that increase production of GHK copper peptide. And the advantage of this is that it modulates gene expression to reset the genes to a younger state. So now the stem cells in the body behave like younger, healthier cells. So we see some very dramatic examples of how people are healing from chronic injuries as well as acute injuries.
So, and that's the thing, if they behave in a more youthful fashion, and what we've seen, I know if you introduce youthful stem cells, then that actually they will then donate youthful mitochondria to the other stem cells. So it'll have like a domino effect where, you start with a group of youthful ones, and then that just kind of have a ripple effect and creates more and more youthful ones of the ones that you already have.
Yeah, that's actually extremely insightful. And it is the principal area of our research, is looking at how to enhance mitochondrial function. So, some of the things, of course, that are popular today are looking at ways that we could elevate NAD with NMN supplements, which the FDA, of course, recently banned. We look at older things that have been around, like acetyl L-carnitine and alpha lipoic acid for enhancing mitochondrial function. And then we really focus in on light therapy. So the idea with this is, we know that specific wavelengths of light can elevate things like vitamin D. And with our products, what we're doing is using specific wavelengths of light to increase beta oxidation, so you get enhanced fat burning. And we use it to activate genes that turn on production of copper peptide, which naturally occurs in the body but declines with age. So to your point, yes, at first you see an increase in cytochrome C oxidase, then you see an increase in beta oxidation. This elevates total ATP. And then from there, you can get increased protein synthesis, improved detoxification pathways, increase in intracellular antioxidants, and then, of course, enhanced stem cell activity.
So one of the issues is obviously, some people, they don't like to swallow a bunch of pills. They don't like to, and with your technology, and this may be hard for people to grasp. I mean, here you're just doing a patch that you put externally on the skin, and somehow that activates, activates some kind of a light impact that impacts a pathway for the copper peptide, the GHK copper, which we know is fantastic for tissue regeneration. I mean, we use it here for like skin regeneration. You can do peptide directly into it. We also use it for our cancer patient because it has huge implications in the apoptosis and controlling tissue so that it doesn't become cancerous. So it kind of bleeds over in so many different areas, just that one peptide. But tell me a little bit how a patch that you put externally on the skin can then have all these different reactions. I mean, how does it transfer into the body, so to say?
Yeah, great question. So the first thing is that this is a non-transdermal patch. So to be clear, there are no drugs or chemicals or natural compounds that are in the product that will diffuse through the skin in a transdermal fashion. Instead, this is a non-transdermal patch, and it's activated by body heat. So in order to understand this properly, it's important to look at how do signal induction and signal transduction mechanisms occur in the human body in the first place. And some of the pioneering work on this was done by Fritz Popp in Germany. And so we know that you take plant cells, animal cells, human cells, and you put them in an environment that's completely dark, and using a photomultiplier tube, at least back in the old days, then you could see light emission off of the cells. So these are highly coherent pulses of light. And in fact, the beauty of the way human beings were created and all life on Earth was created is that light is a communication mechanism. So very much as what Becker found is that the bioelectrical, the energetic systems of the body are controlling the biochemistry. So it's so critically important when, as you know, when we look at overall health, the energetic systems in the body have to be in balance with the biochemistry, meaning that if you're having a healthy diet, then you want to make sure that your communication systems are working with any number of different techniques, and then the person can have optimum health. So the way we approach this is that there are natural compounds. They're principally stereoisomers of amino acids. They're processed in a specific way so they will reflect specific wavelengths of light onto the skin when activated by body heat. So this is a specific form of low-level light therapy. And I'm delighted to say that after 20 years of research, we have over 80 clinical studies on this. So those that are interested can go to our website, go to the science section, and they can go through those studies.
And that's incredible. So just using these specific amino acids, putting them in certain patterns will then generate a specific frequency that will then turn on mechanisms within the body, mechanisms like the activating the GHK copper. So you have a certain kind of pattern in the patch that will then activate that. And then by doing that, you then activate also the stem cell production and activity of the own individual for regeneration.
Yeah, so a good way to understand this is that the light that comes off of our products is encoded with information. So let me explain that for a minute. When we look at traditional low-level light therapy or light therapy in general, we can use wavelengths of light like 630 nanometers, 660, 850, 810, any blend of infrared or visible light, or even up into UV. And we know that's going to elicit a specific response. So it's pretty common knowledge that we expose the body to UV light and it gives people a tan. We expose to 660, we can turn on collagen production, we can improve mitochondrial function, and so forth. And what I wanted to do with this was a little bit different. I wanted to see if we could use light to turn on production of specific peptides like glutathione, like GHK, AHK, carnosine. And so the principle of this is that we do what you do in laser communications, is that instead of having a wave that is simply a sinusoidal, what we'll do is modulate the wave so it contains information. So now, this is how, of course, in the military, for example, you have site-to-site communications with a laser because the light is encoded with information. So the patches work the same way. There is an infrared carrier. It's modulated to contain information to turn on synthesis of a specific peptide.
And that's, for people understanding, we have optic cables, that we communicate, through our phones. And so and that information goes bi-directional. So you can, encode exactly like you're saying. You can then encode that frequencies with any kind of information. I mean, there's limitless amount of information that you can encode that. And then, like you're saying, then there's specific communication that will turn on different peptides that will then elicit a response within the body.
Yeah, exactly. And the way we know this is because we do blood studies. So we'll take a baseline blood draw and we'll look at GHK levels. And as Laurent Picard discovered, he's the father of GHK. We know that copper peptide levels decline with age pretty dramatically. So we'll look at a population of people, say, over the age of 50, and we know their copper peptide levels are going to be down 60, 80%, depending on a person's diet and how well they're taking care of themselves. So we'll do that baseline, and then in as little as 24 hours, we hit statistical significance, and we'll see increases in both GHK and GHK-Cu. What's very typical is within the first 24 hours, there's a very significant increase in GHK. And then over the course of the next 7 days, you see the GHK bind with copper. And then there's a statistically significant improvement in GHK-Cu. But the metabolism studies that we do, we have one that's published that's on our website. And we've done that with first a pilot study with 15 people and then a double-blind study with 50 people. And what that shows, again, the statistical significance is that within the first week of using the product, you see about a 30 to 40% increase in the utilization of amino acids. So the utilization of leucine goes up. So we're going to get enhanced muscle hypertrophy. We're going to see tryptophan increase, so in its metabolism, and that correlates with a sleep index that we do, so people get better sleep, and also branch chain amino acids. We see increase in metabolism of those, so people are recovering faster after exercise, and they're healing faster.
And yeah, like tryptophan, you have also, it's a precursor to serotonin. So in addition, sleep, for mood elevation, it functions as a neurotransmitter. So any communication in the brain or in the cells or anywhere, you need those neurotransmitters. So that's huge. And we know also with the introduction of glyphosates, at the level that we have, that it really destroys our ability to utilize, or absorb tryptophan, which is then produced in the gut by our gut biome, and glyphosate destroys that. So now we have a way to support that naturally, over and above what's normally supposed to happen in the gut.
Yeah, these products are very good tools, and our message is that it's so critically important for people to build a strong foundation, that if they're going to their healthcare practitioner to get advice on diet and exercise, lifestyle changes, keeping the toxins out, detoxifying regularly, this is so critically important, because without that foundation, they're not going to get the best results out of a product like LifeWave. And we see some amazing things, and the people that get the best benefits are those that build up their foundation.
Yeah. So talk to me a little bit in regards to, so the GHK, then you also have something that's called AHK, and that's one of the newer patches that have come out. That's quite fascinating, and I know our prior discussion we talked, and this was before, this was in the pipeline at that time, and we were talking about 5Gs and the interruption of these unhealthy frequencies that we are bathed with in the modern society, and how important it is to be able to protect ourselves and to kind of normalize our bodies to be able to deal with these stressors, because whether we like it or not, they exist. So we just got to figure out better tools to be able to exist with them in some fashion. So tell me a little bit about the AHK and that patch and what it does.
Yeah, so there's a lot to unpack there and talk about. It seems like God created us with the ability to upgrade and deal with all of these challenges. And that's something that is incredibly exciting, because it provides some hope that even though we're being bombarded with these synthetic man-made radiations, there are things we can do to protect ourselves. So first thing is that, to give credit where credit is due, Dr. Lauren Picard discovered GHK, he discovered AHK, and without his foundational work, I wouldn't have been able to carry on and do the work that I'm doing. So I'm very, very appreciative to Dr. Picard for everything that he's done. So once we knew that we could elevate GHK with light, designing a product to elevate AHK seemed to be a natural follow-up, because the peptides are so similar. GHK, of course, is based on glycine, and AHK is based on alanine. And so this would, glycine is fairly ubiquitous, and it's rather easy to get in the diet, but alanine, not so much. Meat eaters are definitely going to have an advantage over vegetarians or vegans. So if someone was interested in elevating their AHK, which they definitely should be, they might want to look at supplementing with something like beta-alanine, because it's very inexpensive and it's easy to come by. So what are some of these benefits? Well, the first thing that you find, which we don't make a claim about, but Dr. Picard is using AHK to regrow hair. It's about equivalent, it's about 10 times more powerful than GHK, and it's equivalent to minoxidil without the hormone manipulation at being able to grow hair. So that in the literature was one of the principal benefits. But what I did with our team was to look at AHK metabolism, and what we thought is that this might be very similar to carnosine, in that you would find AHK in the brain, in the heart, in the muscle fiber, and potentially also in the bone. So we did a bone density test, and we found that we could reverse age-related osteoporosis in women. So that in of itself, we haven't published that study, but the study finished up to statistical significance that we could stop bone loss and reverse it with this peptide. And that was pioneering work because it wasn't previously in the literature that we could find. We also focused on the general health benefits. And so we did some general wellness studies where we took people and put them on a mild exercise program. And what we saw was that the group that was using AHK did much, much better than the control group. And in fact, what was interesting is that we found that without any special diet, people lost body fat in addition to building lean muscle mass. So that's an exciting area that we still want to explore a little bit more. But to your point, we did a study with a biochemist looking at this problem of 5G and Wi-Fi and Bluetooth and how pervasive it is, and what could we do? So I came up with this hypothesis that, we in our lab, when we test things, we might create a Faraday cage, and we might use a copper mesh, surround a piece of equipment to isolate it from electromagnetic radiation, and that does a very nice job. So I thought, well, maybe the human body has the same capability. What if we elevated, what if we gave people a supplement of copper, 2.5 milligrams of copper glycinate daily, just to cover that base, and then we increased both GHK and AHK-Cu, with the idea is that they're going to be found in higher concentrations in the skin, and maybe these peptides, because they were bound to copper, would block out radiation. And that's in fact exactly what we saw. Was within about 3 days of using these products, people's sensitivity to Wi-Fi and Bluetooth and 5G decreased dramatically. So we worked with people that were electromagnetically sensitive.
That's huge. So, people then become just like walking Faraday cages, so that our skin in itself will then protect the rest of the body inside, from the impact of these negative electromagnetic impulses and microwaves and so forth that we're exposed to. That's tremendous.
Yeah, and I think that's the tip of the iceberg, because there's also UV light to be concerned about. And I have some Irish blood from my grandmother, and I have always burned very easily my entire life. And so one of the things that we found, we had about 350 of our members on a cruise in the Bahamas, and we gave them free sleeves of the product. And what we were finding, this is purely anecdotal, but we were finding is that people didn't get sunburns. They went from being white to going to a tan. So we know that GHK blocks UV light. That's in the literature. And we see this in practice now with the product. You elevate your GHK-Cu, and it tends to block UV radiation. So this might offer some protection from things like skin cancer, but of course we don't know. That study hasn't been done.
No, that's tremendous. So what are some, so with the osteoporosis, that's huge. So what are some of the impacts that you have seen with people? Let's kind of focus first on the regenerative aspect, people that are dealing with things that are associated with degenerative diseases, when the body is shutting down, and that can be MS, can be ALS, can be Parkinson's, can be Crohn's, it can be any of these different things where the communication within the system is dysfunctional and the body starts to break down. Like you're mentioning, the researcher, Alfred Pops, and Fritz Pops, I'm sorry, and the research he's done with the communication within the body and how that's done through biophoton, and it's not really the same kind of chemical dependent type of communication that we thought so much in the past, that is more because the reactions takes place so much faster. So we need that kind of light, healthy light communication. And I know that the patches then support that process, which is such a key. So what are some of the effects that you have seen? I mean, I know you've done studies on the osteoporosis, and I know in my own clinic, we use the patches a lot and we've seen tremendous results. But what are some of the common things that you see in regards to the regeneration? And obviously we don't cure anything. There's nothing that's cured, or there's no diseases that are treated by it, but it's supporting the well-being of the individual. And by doing that, then it's amazing how the body can then heal itself from some of these very complex diseases.
Right. And that's a fantastic point, because the body is always healing itself. And so the question then is, what can we do to support the natural healing process in the body, right? That should always be the goal. It'll be far easier if I share some pictures with you. This is from a study. It was a pilot study that we did with Dr. Gaetan Chevalier, and really phenomenal guy. He's a physicist and has his background in nuclear research, and got very interested in biophoton emission and laser spectroscopy. So this is with a multi-channel EEG, where we're looking at brain function. And we did initial pilot study with 15 people, and then later a study with 60 people. And so what we saw is that session 1 is at baseline. Session 2 is after 3 weeks of using X39, and session 3 is after 6 weeks. So we know that at age 77, there's virtually no stem cell activity in the body. The quantity of stem cells has declined. The activity of the stem cells has declined. And of course, as you know, when people get to that age, they don't heal very well. So any type of interventions becomes very difficult for the practitioner to help the patient, more challenging. And so the idea here is, well, what if we reset stem cells to a more youthful state with GHK? What would we see? And so we saw, after as little as 3 weeks, that the brain started to go into a state of coherence. And this was really remarkable. Dr. Chevalier commented that it might take 9 months of therapy, good nutrition, exercise, to see this level of shift that we were seeing in 3 weeks. So this would mean that this woman was sleeping better, she had better cognitive function, her memory improved, short term, the speed of processing improved. So this was very dramatic improvement in health.
So tell me a little bit what we're looking at, with the pictures. What does the red mean, the blue, yellow, all of that? What does that mean?
Yeah, so what this would mean is you have different frequencies that are going on bioelectrically in different regions of the brain, and the ability of, let's say, the pineal gland to communicate with the hypothalamus depends on coherence. So in other words, we want to use something like our frontal lobes for processing information, but that's contingent upon the ability of the pineal gland to signal the hypothalamus, and then the hypothalamus to direct production of hormones and neurohormone precursors to allow all of that to happen. And so these red areas are indicative of an incoherence in the cell signaling, so that it means at this age, for this gentleman at 67, there is internal bioelectrical resistance in the tissue that's prohibiting effective communication from one region of the brain to the other. And so what we see is that as we elevate copper peptide, in this gentleman over a period of 6 weeks, there's a dramatic improvement in the coherence of communications in the brain. And this, of course, then leads to overall better health.
So the more blue you're seeing, the cooler the temperature is, the less friction, so to say, less kind of incoherence it is, so that all the different glands in the brain, neurotransmitters, all of that can communicate more appropriately.
Right, right. So this is a good tool for practitioners. There's a few of them that we use. Multi-channel EEG. We have a device called a Menla-Scan, which I really like. We use a biopulsar in our labs. They're all, different ways of getting information very quickly, as opposed to doing blood or urine. We do a lot of blood and urine tests, and they're, of course, invaluable. But I really like combining that data with the bioelectrical, because now you get a fuller picture of what's really happening.
Yeah, and dementia, Alzheimer's, I mean, all of that that is a pandemic that's taking place right now. So to be able to have a tool to support the coherence in the brain to reduce risks, for those type of things. I mean, obviously we can't say that anything prevents anything, but at least we want to do everything that we can to maximize our ability to function and to help to regenerate.
Yeah, we did absolutely. We did a study over 10 years ago with Dr. Tom Budzinski and his wife, Helen Budzinski. And Dr. Budzinski was very, very well known in neurofeedback. There were college textbooks that he wrote. And one of the investigational studies that we did was on carnosine. And carnosine, of course, is a dipeptide, which is made up of alanine and histidine, and so is metabolized in the brain. And what was so exciting is that we saw, after 30 days of increasing carnosine content in the brain, we could completely reverse age-related cognitive decline. So this is incredibly exciting for people that are dealing with any normal age-related cognitive function, but also people that might have more serious conditions. Supplementing with things like carnosine and glutathione, to a degree, can have some dramatic impacts on people's overall health and their memory, state of relaxation, and immune health.
And the challenging, I mean, so the supplementing is fantastic. You do have to rely then on the absorption and on the integrity of your gut in some fashion. So obviously, right, somebody with a healthy gut's going to absorb more. Somebody that's older, less healthy gut's going to absorb less. So that's why it's great to have an additional delivery system that does not rely then on your ability to absorb things through your intestinal tract.
Yeah, absolutely. This is, like I said, it's a tool that people can use with healthy diet and exercise and supplementation to take their results to a level that they wouldn't have been able to before. In the area of activating stem cells with copper peptide, this was a gentleman that had open heart surgery and had a pretty healthy scar there. A year later, they received the product in July of 2018, and 30 days later, virtually no scar. So this is because GHK does a great job of managing inflammation. And we know the keloid proteins are going to be responsible for scarring. And copper peptide, fortunately, can reduce keloids and help increase protein synthesis and collagen synthesis. So we get reduction in the appearance of scars.
So here, this is really dramatic, but
right.
And obviously you have women out there that are dealing with, C-sections, dealing with a lot of different scars or gallbladder surgery, and to be able to kind of heal those scars becomes tremendous. And what's interesting also, I do a lot of neural therapy, because the scars in themselves create a energetic interference that can create complex pain disorders and other health issues. And so by having tools then to heal the scars and open up that communication through the scars, so it doesn't interfere with the electrical signaling through the body. That's extremely helpful, and it's in addition to just the beauty aspect, functionally what happens in the body is tremendous as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And we see quite a bit of this. Of course, in the first example, this was a scar that was there for a year. Here, this was a woman that was coming out of surgery, and you don't have to apply the product directly to the injury. By the way, this is systemic, so we give people a couple of different applications point as a matter of convenience, so you can apply it behind the neck, below the belly button. If you want to apply it to the injury, you certainly can, but it's not really necessary. And here is an example of someone that applied the patch right at the site of the injury.
That's incredible. So this is just a month. Oh, look at that.
Yeah, and this was, of course, he was a teenager who had a snowboarding accident, and he used the product and had some pretty significant results after only a few days.
That's incredible.
This one, I have to say I was pretty shocked when we got this in. So this was a gentleman that nearly lost his hand in a car accident, and so he got stitched up and applied X39, and of course, what was remarkable was not so much even the scar, was the fact that he got the use of his hand back, and that was pretty striking. This was so we have quite a few members over in Denmark, and this was a case where 9-year-old boy had caught his finger into a door and it got sliced off. Parents rushed him to the hospital, and the doctor said, well, there's not really anything we can do. And the father begged the doctor to reattach the finger, and he said, well, I can, but it's just going to die. And you can see that's exactly what happened. So fortunately, they had a friend who was one of our distributors, and they got the child the X39 product, and after 2 months, it was like it had never happened. So this was pretty life-changing for him.
Yeah, I mean, this is incredible. See, actually, it's kind of like we were talking about Dr. Becker in regards to his research and the electrical stimulation and growing out, body parts. And so it's the same. We're seeing that here, the same thing, where you're using these patches and you're actually growing something that, growing back something that was dead.
Yeah, what we're doing with, and this is certainly, on the outer edge, this I wouldn't say is typical, for full disclosure. We get these testimonials all the time, but this is definitely out on the outer edge of what we see.
But it's just to kind of show what the potential of it, and yes, I mean, there's so many factors that are at play, but meaning that what this will do is then support that process. And whether you have that, complete miraculous healing, I mean, that may or may not happen, but you're still supporting that process, and you want to give it your all to be able to get that effect, obviously.
Yeah, and the human body has a funny way of prioritizing things. So often people want a certain thing to be healed first, but the body has other plans and devotes resources to other places. We do see, by the way, while many people use this technology for healing, there are plenty of people that use it just for general wellness to stay in shape. So this is a woman in Australia who had been using our products, and so she used the X39 when it came out and was very pleased after 6 weeks with the results. And but after a year, the change was pretty dramatic.
Yeah, you can kind of just see that the tightness around the lips. Yeah, you can see kind of that collagen production, and it's just getting fuller. The cheeks are kind of pulling skin up a little bit more. So it's really striking difference.
And this was her after 2 years of using X39. So, you made a comment before that I kind of chuckled at, because I thought I might get the opportunity to show you this picture. You made a very insightful comment before that as you're increasing and improving the activity of the mitochondria, as the cells are dividing, they're dividing as younger, healthier cells. And we certainly see a lot of evidence for that. And this is certainly a case study where we did see that happen.
That's tremendous. Yeah, I mean, I mean, looking from day one to 2 years later,
Right.
I mean, who wouldn't want that change?
Right, exactly. This is what I'd say would be pretty typical that we see over a period of 2 or 3 months, is that the skin will tighten, it'll become clearer, there's detoxification going on, skin tightening, new collagen production, better complexion. So this would be very typical of the type of testimonials we get.
Yeah, yeah. Look at that. Yeah, you can just kind of see that everything is, yeah, with gravity, obviously, as we get older, things and collagen starts to collapse, then everything starts to droop, and you can just see how the skin is lifting up. You know, eyes are clear. You know, it's yeah, it's incredible.
Now, this would be one again that is a little bit on the outer edge. We have a huge market in Japan, and that market started for us in late 2018, early 2019. And so this would be, the middle photo is about, I believe that was 2-3 months after using the product. And now this would have been after about a year on the picture on the far right. So again, to your point, it shows the potential.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, we see kind of underneath the eyes, and I mean, it's, yeah. But you know that when it's happening like this on the surface, what's visible, and just imagine what's taking place internally as well. And that is, and that's what's so great. It's not just a superficial healing, it's a whole systemic healing. And that's what we want. We want wellness and health.
Right. To me, absolutely. That's the most exciting part of this, is that this is happening as a result of, number one, improving mitochondrial function, improving the health of the cell, upregulating production of antioxidants, managing inflammation, and mobilizing stem cells. So very much that would be consistent with the data that we've collected, is that in order to get these effects, it's because we're improving the overall health of the body. So this is going to make a practitioner's job a lot easier, because now you have a technology like this that you can use in aftercare to help support the overall health of the patients. And this is just another example of what would be pretty normal that we would see.
That's huge. This is normal.
And then, yeah, this is pretty normal as far as the results we get. Now, this next one was actually the very first, we'll call it youth renewal testimonial that we ever received. This was a woman in Denmark who was having a number of very significant health challenges, which we won't make any claims about. And her daughter is a LifeWave distributor. And so when the product came out, she thought, well, maybe maybe this will help my mom with some of her challenges and make her life a little bit easier. And you can imagine how shocked everyone was to see what happened 2 months later. So this was this was really pretty striking. And this happened in 2018. So this showed us very, very early on, once we took the product to market, what was in store. So it was really thrilling. And of course, we were delighted for her.
I mean, that's like turning back the clock at least 10 years in 2 months. I mean,
it's about that. Yeah. Yeah. It's I should mention, by the way, that Norm Shealy, we've been doing clinical studies, and unfortunately he retired recently. So we've been doing studies with Norm maybe since about 2008, 2009 or so. And Norm and I did 3 years worth of telomere studies. And what we were showing is that we could lengthen telomeres by about 8.5% within 6 months. So so that equates rather to 8.5 years of age reversal in about 6 months. Yeah. So, and of course, doing it totally non-drug. And we had people that were at the lower end, which was maybe about a 1% improvement or so within 6 months. And then we had some very unusual cases where people were getting 16 to 18 years of age reversal in about a 6-month period of time. So, you look at those anomalies and you say, well, why are people, at that extreme? Is it their genetics? Is it their diet? What's causing it? But the exciting thing is that we are showing that we can, at least in part, reverse the age of specific parts of the cell.
Well, so, I mean, because telomeres, as we get older, they break down, they get shorter and shorter. So even if you just keep it at bay, meaning that, let's say you didn't get 1%, it was just stable. Just being stable is fantastic. So, and then to be able to get 1% and then get 16, 18, I mean, whatever else. I mean, that's incredible in 6 months.
Yeah. So, for those people that aren't familiar with it, normally our telomeres are going to shorten by anywhere from 0.25% to 1% per year. So to your point, even if we were regenerating telomeres at the rate of 1% improvements per year, we're reversing age. And so over a period of 10, 20 years, that's going to be a very, very dramatic improvement for someone. And, who knows what that means? Who knows how high is up at this point?
And talk to me, because I know you were very interested in weight loss in the past, that was kind of one of the things, the technologies that you were driving. How do these patches, can they help with that as well? I mean, I would assume turning on healthier mitochondria, more muscle mass, and that would then stimulate a higher metabolism, which will cause people to lose weight.
Yeah, so it's not a claim we make, but on the patches, what we see is we had Frank Schallenberger did the original pioneering study for us, where we used a capnometer and we saw about a 23% improvement in fat burning on the very first day of using the energy patches. We later did an informal analysis with indirect calorimetry, and we saw that the patches were able to help burn about another 300 calories per day. So as a weight loss aid, they're very good. It's not going to replace diet and exercise, right? If people don't have proper sleep, proper diet, proper exercise, it's not going to be a magic pill that they take where they're going to shred body fat, but it's a very good aid. We also have 2 new products that we just came out with, which are a new class of aromatherapy. And time doesn't really allow us to talk about it in detail, but one of the products will help to elevate testosterone in both men and women, and it will help to normalize testosterone levels. So I'll use myself as an example. And we, in our initial pilot study that we did with 15 people, we saw that within 3 days, 85% of the participants had statistically significant improvement in testosterone, and 14 of the 15 people had increases in testosterone after 2 weeks. My testosterone levels went from about the mid 300s to 710. So as a 59-year-old guy, I'm really happy with testosterone levels at about 700.
That's huge. I mean, it's because and we know that these sex hormones that play such an integral part in our brain function, in our mood, in our regenerative abilities. So yeah, I mean, this is tremendous. So this is an essential oil then, or are these patches as well?
No, so these are, they're technically regulated as aromatherapy products. So there's very limited claims we can make with them. But what's different about it is that we developed a specific type of structured water to use as a delivery system. Like aromatherapy, they contain alcohol, but they have a blend of herbs and essential oils that act as actives. So because this is based on olfaction, when you inhale this aroma, the delivery system helps carry this into the blood, and the results are very, very rapid.
Yeah, because I know when you apply a little bit of essential oil underneath your feet, I mean, it's within your whole body and your bloodstream within like 20 seconds. I mean, it delivery is tremendous.
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And then you have, I mean, the nerves, the hair follicles in your nose, I mean, those are actually extension of nerves that have direct access to your brain. So by inhaling, and then if it increases the steroid hormones like testosterone, we know that they have kind of a stimulating effect on your cognitive ability, reduce inflammation in the brain. So like depression, anxiety, a lot of the neurological conditions, autism, ADHD, all of these are related to inflammation in the brain. So to be able to get those steroids and have an impact on the brain through the olfactory, that's a fantastic delivery system to be able to get that.
Yeah, and to your point, I think there's tremendous hope for people that are dealing with those types of disorders. In the research that we do, I tend to think that some of these disorders are going to come down to improper metabolism of alanine. And to your point, I completely agree that one of the therapeutic and prophylactic things that people can do is to improve their antioxidant profiles in their brain and get inflammation under control. And that in of itself should be preventative for many people.
So I know we're kind of running a little short on, there's so much information and we can chat forever about all the research and science. So right now, tell me kind of when should a person use GHK versus AHK versus carnosine versus glutathione? Those are kind of the main, and you have a bunch of other patches that are, energy patch, you have, there's a lot of different ones. So what kind of in a kind of a quick summary, what should people think, when I should reach for this one? Obviously to do all of them at the same time would be the best, because then you get all the delivery, but
not necessarily, sometimes less is more. But what I would say is a great way for people to start is with X39, because there are so many benefits to it. And for many people, it's going to cover all the bases. If someone were to have, let's say, chronic inflammation, maybe they're dealing with arthritis, they're dealing with Parkinson's, and we're just talking about the pain, they could combine X39 with Eon or IceWave. Both are natural light-based anti-inflammatories. If you use Eon, for example, which is a broad spectrum anti-inflammatory, they could put X39 behind the neck and then simply apply the Eon patch to the point of pain. If there is systemic pain, they can just apply the patch below the belly button, and that'll cover the whole body. If someone's having a problem sleeping, they could use X39 with our Silent Nights product, which is a natural way of elevating melatonin with light. If they're interested in sports performance, they could combine X39 with either X49 or carnosine and see some very rapid improvements, within the first week with those products. If they're interested in immune function, detoxification, then they combine X39 with glutathione. So that's a very quick rundown. There's certainly a lot of other things there to cover, but that's a good rundown to start.
I love it. Well, David Schmidt, you brought such tremendous amount. Like you were thinking in your youthful days that you didn't want to become a farmer or farmer. You didn't want to become a harmer, which is
not a farmer either.
no pharmaceutical. No. So you've you really brought this tremendous technology out, and obviously we base it on research that other scientists have done, and we take that to the next step and next applications, and that's the beauty of science, the evolution. And I think in regards to healing, I think that wave technology, using light, using sound, these are kind of the next frontier that we're dealing with. And because it is completely harmless and it's just supportive, it supports the innate intelligence within the body, so that it can do what it's supposed to do at a higher level. And so that's when we kind of step away from these kind of physical things that we swallow and we support it with light and frequencies, I think we're going to achieve, it's amazing what we're going to see in the area of healing, I think, as we are evolving in that field.
Yeah, so, no question about it. It's an exciting future.
Great. So thank you so much, David. I really appreciate this.
Pleasure is mine. Thank you for having me. Thank you.
Thanks.